If you're interested in learning to trade on Betfair, then visit the BetAngel Academy, where you have detailed, structured Betfair trading courses. Or why not visit our website where you can download a free trial of BetAngel Professional, but also visit the forum where you can get detailed images, examples, and downloadable files. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and click on the bell icon if you want notification of new videos as they're released. Well, that was an interesting weekend, wasn't it? This isn't the video that I was expecting to put up this weekend, because I have prepped a couple of videos that I think would be interesting for you, and I intended to upload them. But last night I just couldn't upload it because on Saturday we had a big Betfair outage. And in fact, the last week that we've had on Betfair, we've had a number of issues. And if you check out the thread on the forum, you can see there's a thread that we run that basically talks about outages. People turn up and ask if people are seeing problems and stuff like that, and the thread explodes when there's an outage. And this was a major outage on Saturday, so it took it offline for most of the afternoon. And obviously that's bad news because you can't actively trade. But worse than that, you can actually end up in a position where you have an open trade that you can't close, which is obviously a bit of a nightmare from a trading perspective. So yeah, there are some stats that we've come out with in terms of outages and stuff, which is available on the thread. So I'll put in the description of the video the thread so you can check it out. And you know, if you're arriving and seeing this video at some point in the future because of an outage, you can start reading up or posting information on the thread from there. That may be useful for you. But I think, you know, it's interesting because there are a few discussion points around this and some things to highlight as well. So I think it was worth doing the video just to give you my thoughts and to talk to you about specifics around outages and stuff as well. So it's sort of inevitable with technology that you're going to have an issue now and again. And we work really hard with BetAngel to make sure that that's not the software. And you know, one of the things that's unique about BetAngel is I'm sat here using it all of the time, the same as you. So that's important to me because if you're using it, you want to know that it's going to perform exactly as you expect, and you can be pretty much assured that that's going to be the case because I'm using it as well. My balls are on the line the same as yours are as well, so we want to make it to work as perfectly as possible. Now, inevitably with information technology and any technology at all, you get the odd problem now and again. So I think that people do expect that there may be the odd issue. So, you know, the first thing that you have to think about is the worst case scenario. So when you look behind me, you only see part of my trading setup. I can trade from here, from my laptop, which is just down here, from other devices. I've got other locations that I can trade from in this office and around the house. And also I've got backup locations as well. So my mobile phone, I was going to reach down here for it, but it's right in front of me. My phone acts as a backup device as well because I've got a cellular connection in case the internet goes down. So you just have layers and layers of redundancy. You try and eliminate all of the possible errors that you could possibly have. I think I've done videos on this before, and you know, one of the stories that I had was one day I was in the office, there was a power cut, so nothing worked. So I switched to the laptop, closed my position, went home. It turned out that there was an outage there as well, and the broadband and nothing worked. And I thought, well, I can't carry on like this for any period of time. So I already had the solution, which was I had a DC converter in the car. So I basically got the laptop, got my phone, went in the car, and I drove to the nearest mobile phone mast where I could be assured of a very strong signal. And I knew they had a generator there as well because I'd actually spoken to the engineer when he was there once when I walked past on one of my morning walks. So yeah, that's the level you go to if you're going to start using serious money in the market. And the bigger the stakes that you're using, the more redundancy you try and set up. So it's important to have all of that sort of stuff in place. So yeah, I try and mitigate all of the risk that I can possibly think about, and anything that I can't think about that comes out of the blue, I couldn't think about, so why worry about it? You can't control it, so you just have to deal with what you can control, and that's important. But the important thing I want to make here is that, you know, my money's on the line the same as yours as well, and that's always been important to me, and if that ever changes I will be sure to let you know. But you can tell that as well from what happened on the day, because at 2 o'clock on that particular day, or just after 2, I'll find the tweet and bring it up on here, I spotted that loads of football markets were suspended, which is obviously not normal. So it could be a loss of feed where they can't get the scores or data from the matches, and that's quite often a cause. But basically, it got me alerted to the fact that there could be a problem, because if there was a fundamental issue with the exchange, then maybe that it could come off of that. That could be one of the ways that it shows itself. So as soon as I spotted that, I sent out a tweet and alerted everybody to the fact that that was happening, and then went and posted on the forum as well. And when we post on the forum, lots of people come in and discuss that, because if you go, oh, I've got a problem with my connection, and everybody sort of goes, well, I haven't, then it's you. But if other people go, yeah, I can see that too, and there is a problem, then up your awareness level goes up a notch. So just after 2 o'clock, I was sort of, thinking that perhaps I need to be a little bit more careful than I normally would do, and my eyes were very firmly focused on any little bumps or ripples that I could see within the market. So we kept an eye on the football matches, and this problem was not getting resolved. So the longer that went on, the more nervous I became. So around 2:30, I was having discussions internally about, do we trust this? Is this normal? Do we think that there's a bigger issue here? Can we start looking really, really seriously for this issue? And then as we approached a race at Thirsk at 2:45, Betfair failed to turn the market in play. And at that point, that was the first moment that I was absolutely convinced that there was a massive issue that was about to unfold. So I immediately went and tweeted, and if you look at the tweet, it basically says, it follows on from the previous tweet, this is what's happening, stop everything on the exchange, do not go any further. And I was basically saying, until I tell you to, until I feel confident, because I was not confident at that point, and I stopped at that point. I wasn't going to carry on. Well, I say that, we were still putting orders into the market because we wanted to see how the market responded. And but basically all my automation went off at that point. And I just thought, I'm not carrying on at this particular moment in time. There's a serious issue here. We need to work out what's going on and what the issue is. And then, less than 3/4 of an hour later, things were beginning to deteriorate even more. And then the feature race at Newbury, which I was really looking forward to trade because it had about $500,000 in prize money. It's a massive race, and I typically pull out a big result on that, was suspended 15-20 minutes out and never returned. And then eventually the site collapsed into complete chaos, and away it went from there. But yeah, if you watch my timeline, I have to be actively trading, but of course on a Saturday I typically am actively trading, or if not, I'll let you know if I'm not. And that gives you an idea as to what's going on. The thread on the forum is a good place to look as well for information about what's going on, because I've learnt when there's a major outage, I'll quickly scan around to see what other people are saying, and typically you hear nothing. So but because we're active and the forum is full of full-time traders who are also active, through one of those two sources you'll figure out if there's a problem, and you can always ask on the forum thread if you think there's an issue, and people will respond and let you know if there is an issue, or if you get no responses, there probably isn't an issue at all anyhow. So yeah, it was disappointing to see the site go down, but there had been problems through the week, and I think that was sort of making us nervous anyway. But when we started seeing those problems on Saturday, it was like, oh no, here we go again. And one of the problems that you have with the exchange model in the way that it is at the moment is that no company will have an open-ended liability. That's just a fact of things. People limit their liabilities because otherwise, you legally, you just have to limit your liabilities some way or another. Otherwise, there's no point in continuing in business if you have unlimited liability. If you look at limited companies and look at the Government Act for limited liability companies and learn about the history of that, you'll begin to understand that a bit better. I'm not going to go into that in a video. Maybe I'll do a separate video on that at some point, but that's investment related. But yeah, so when you place a trading position in the market, you've got this prospect that if there is an outage, you may not be able to close it. And that's obviously a big issue. And, there were lots of people that were outraged by Betfair's stance on this, but it's always been in the terms and conditions. It's always been part of the risk that you accept when doing this type of activity on the market. And you have to trust Betfair to be able to do the honourable thing, or have the site maintained in such a way that it's not going to be an issue. However, it is an issue. And I have stated my view on this before, which I'll cover in a second, but don't be shocked if Betfair tell you that you had opened a position that you were going to close at some particular point in the future, and they say, well, we can only see that side of it, and that's what stands. because that's the way that it works. If you look at my lifetime history, with all of the outages that I've had over the best part of 20 years, which is a lot, typically it's averaged itself out. So sometimes the site benefits me and sometimes it works against me. On Saturday I was well prepared for it, so I had very little liability in the market anyway. But of the two bots that I was still running at that particular moment in time, one won and one lost, and they more or less netted each other out. And that's more or less what's happened over a long period of time. There was a funny conversation I was having with somebody where he was saying, well, maybe the site should crash more often because then it'll even out a lot quicker. Which I thought was quite funny. A very interesting logic underway there. But if you look at my worst ever loss, it came because of a site outage. I lost $7,500. And I'm pretty sure, I can't remember which year it was at the Cambridgeshire meeting, which is a big field handicap. It's a massive cavalry charge down Newmarket. I had a big position committed to the market and the site crashed and I couldn't exit my position. And I was stuffed. I was going to say another word then, but I was absolutely, totally stuffed. And that was intensely painful. However, I was still up on the end of the week, and also it wouldn't be fair to mention my biggest loss without mentioning my biggest gain, which was about $4,500. But you'll notice there is a mismatch there, but over time they all sort of net each other out over a period of time. And incidentally, you'll be interested to know that my biggest ever win on any individual market is far in excess of $4,500. So let's put that into context there, because the context is dictated by your expectation of a payoff. So I'm likely to get big wins and losses during an outage. They average out over time, but in fact I'm still playing with something that's manageable. But nonetheless, what should Betfair's policy be? And I have a view that I've held right from day one on this. That is that if you turn a trade into a bet, you end up paying a lot more commission on it, and therefore Betfair benefit when there is an outage. They benefit much more when there's an outage than when there isn't, because if you were able to trade out of the position, you'd pay much less commission, and therefore, it sort of pays for Betfair to have an outage. Now, I'm not for a minute suggesting that the outages are done on purpose. I'm sure somebody will suggest that. But I think there's an unfair liability on people using the exchange, and it is causing an exchange, by the way, when there's an outage. So why not remove that incentive or that reward for being an outage and turn it into a punishment to improve or reduce the likelihood that there will be an outage, improve the stability of the exchange? Because I think that what should happen when there's an outage is you avoid all affected markets, all bets, all trades, everything gets voided. Because if you void absolutely everything, nobody gains. There are no exceptional winners, no exceptional losers. Betfair don't get paid. Massive incentive to improve stability. So that's my view, is that you should void all markets, because then nobody gets any payoff. There is no incentive to maintain a bad service. There's a huge incentive to improve the service and get the site running up and stable as quickly as possible. So yeah, I think that that's the case. You often see people saying, "Oh, let's boycott them for a week or whatever." But the problem with that is, if you walk away from the table, somebody else will sit at your table. It's like a busy restaurant; people are fighting for seats, and if you decide to get up and walk away and protest, it's going to have no particular impact. But when these situations occur, there has to be, I think, some sort of form of punishment, as it were, to improve future behaviour, to focus minds on making sure that it doesn't go wrong again at some particular point. So I think voiding markets is one thing. I think if you move your business elsewhere temporarily, that's probably not going to work, because other people will just come in and fill the gap, effectively, that you left behind. However, if you see what I did on Saturday, this is the response that you should have. I immediately turned over to Betdaq and started trading on there. So, as you know, I trade on Betfair and Betdaq, and I have done for a number of years. I think it's important to do that, because I think that, first of all, there is an opportunity on both, so you may as well take advantage of it. But also, I want to show that that is possible, that you can do it, and that it's only imagination that separates you from having a successful strategy. Trading is sort of a combination of strategies, and you decide which one to deploy. So wind yourself back to when I first joined Betfair. There was no liquidity, there was nothing there at all. The very first market ever was about £1,300 in turnover. Most of that was people at Betfair, but everything else was absolutely devoid of liquidity. In-play markets never had even been invented, so there was nothing there. And then look where we are now. So everything starts from a low level and then gradually builds and gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's the same with everything else. Now, I suppose I was somewhat fortunate that I was around in the era of low liquidity or no liquidity, because I had to figure out what to do. So when Betfair goes down, you see the volume drop off on other exchanges, some more than others. But the reason that I like switching to Betdaq is that Betdaq have a commercial relationship with on-course bookmakers. So bookmakers hedge on-course into Betdaq. So it's not as though a switch is being turned off and everything vanishes. You tend to find that Betfair is linked to other exchanges and bookmakers. They take their pricing from Betfair, and as a consequence, those exchanges mimic the Betfair prices and the same sort of activity. However, there is a disconnect between that, what occurs on Betdaq, because they've got this on-course market sewn up, and all of the bookmakers who are on course are pricing up the market and then actually hedging their position onto the exchange. Well, I say that. Some of them hedge permanently, some of them are real proper old traditional bookmakers who will have an opinion on a market. They would have priced it, done the homework, and will be offering prices out and just taking money. But nonetheless, there is that stream that goes into Betdaq. And look at what happens to me on the Saturday. I wanted to demonstrate that it was perfectly possible to trade on Betdaq, even when there was a drop in liquidity after Betfair went off. You'll probably find it was bots arbing or doing other things related to that. But if you look at many, many years ago, it was impossible to do that. Now, as you can see from the P&Ls that I posted on Saturday, I posted up two. One was manual, one was automated. They both got similar totals. It's perfectly possible. All that I did was just turn my attention, change the strategy that I was using, and off I went. And I think that that's more terrifying to an established an exchange, that you can do that, than just walking away from the table. So, I've always said that competition is healthy and it's useful to have active competitors competing for your business. And I think the more that occurs, the more interesting the market is, and the better you and I will be treated, and the better deal that we'll get, and all of those sort of things. So it's just something that's natural for me to do. I don't think there's really any excuse that you can have for not giving it a try. Okay, it's different, it feels different, but nonetheless, that will teach you things about the market that you probably don't know. If you can't trade in a liquid market, or you're not aware of how to do that, if you put that into your toolkit, then it opens up a whole range of other markets for you as well, because there are illiquid markets on Betfair. I trade those as well. So yeah, having all of that skill set is quite useful on itself. And okay, you're not going to do particularly well to start with, but if you work hard at it, then you'll get better and better, and then you'll end up in a place similar to where I am, which is I can just switch modes. I can trade both exchanges. I can trade either or. If one of them is down, it makes no difference to me. Trading strategies work. Your role as a trader is to slide the strategy that you think is appropriate into the market and then maximize that opportunity from there. So yeah, I've sort of meandered across many different topics here. If you've got views on the outage or what you think should be done and what Betfair should do and stuff like that, then comment below. Let me know what your thoughts are. But those are my thoughts. I think that when there is an outage on an exchange, it's not unreasonable to expect that there will be one now and again. We don't want them frequently. And certainly I think an incentive to improve the stability of the exchange would be for there to be a financial punishment if the exchange started to fall over, not a reward for when the exchange fell over. Make sure that you're prepared as best as you possibly can. But also, take a leaf out of my book. Learn to trade other markets in different ways. With different levels of liquidity, with different strategies, because it works. I've just shown you that it works. And years ago there was nothing there. It's a lot busier now than it ever has been, and I expect that to continue to improve. So there are opportunities there. I summarized it on a tweet where I sort of said, negative minds find problems, positive minds find opportunities. I've mentioned this in videos before, but it's true. Depending upon how you frame or look at a situation depends what you'll get out of it. But anyhow, there are all my thoughts about what happened this weekend. New videos will be up again after this particular issue. But if you've got some views on it, then comment below. or come into the forum and join the chat that's going on there, because we're having a very broad-ranging discussion there about what we think about it, and people are analysing the details of the outages as well to figure out, you know, what we're actually looking at, and is it getting better or worse, or the frequency of them and stuff like that. Because I will go to Betfair and present them with that information. I spoke to Betfair during the outage on Saturday, and I'll follow up with them this week, and we're going to get some data and throw it at them and see what they say. I think their PR is not very good. I think they could do a much better job of dealing with these sort of situations and explaining them. That's one of the problems that people have, is nobody understands why they're happening. But yeah, those are my thoughts. Give me your thoughts below, and hopefully we can have a nice period now where we have no issues whatsoever. But yeah, give me your thoughts. Let me know what your views are on Betfair outages, what you do about them, and what you think Betfair should do about them.